No bonus for incompetent dropouts. After what happened, David will be either demoted or transferred, and he won't be able to stay in this department anymore. I sighed deeply at Manager Thompson, who had no intention of admitting his own faults. I realized it was impossible to continue working with him. "I'm quitting," I said. My subordinates all looked at me in shock. Honestly, I'd reached my limit. If I stayed here any longer, I felt I might end up hitting Manager Thompson. "Thank you for everything," I said, giving him a small nod before leaving the company. The day after I quit, I received a call from the company on my cell phone. "Hey, what the hell did you do?" Manager Thompson's voice was so loud it was distorted, making it hard to understand what he was saying. However, I managed to catch the gist of it. Apparently, when Manager Thompson showed up to work today, he had the following exchange with an employee. The stock price is plummeting. What? The office atmosphere was like a funeral, and when they investigated the cause, they found out that the news of my resignation had spread on social media. That's why they were frantically calling me. My name is David Walker, a 42-year-old company employee. My company makes toys, and I was an unusual hire who joined with just a middle school diploma. Not all toy manufacturers in the country are well-known big companies. For instance, the ones making candy toys are small toy manufacturers. My company is a subsidiary of a well-known toy manufacturer, and we have about 50 employees. We mainly make toys for babies. One advantage of being a subsidiary of a large corporation is getting our products displayed in stores. Although online shopping is the norm nowadays, having products on store shelves is still a big plus. However, due to the pandemic a few years ago, in-store toy purchases plummeted. Online shopping became the norm, and our company's sales dropped significantly. Even though we're a subsidiary of a large corporation, without sales, we were facing bankruptcy. At that time, our company was in such a dangerous situation. The CEO, Mike Williams, even discussed the possibility of being absorbed by our parent company. What saved our company was a completely new product. We, who had been making toys for babies, suddenly shifted to making board games for adults. And these games sold explosively. During the stay-at-home orders, board games met the needs of the times. Thanks to this, our company managed to avoid bankruptcy and get back on its feet. Now, most of our company's sales come from board games. In terms of percentage, it's about 90% board games and 10% other products. Until a few years ago, I was in the development department, but last year, I was transferred to the public relations department. My main job is to promote our games, and we conduct pop-up events all over the country. My little brother asked if you could teach him some game tips, Mr. Walker. That was my subordinate, Jack Parker, speaking. Jack joined our company 3 years ago as a mid-career hire. Before that, he worked as an elite at a trading company, but suddenly quit to join us. He faced a lot of opposition from those around him. "Why don't you teach him yourself, Jack? You're pretty good at games too. My level is nothing compared to yours, Mr. Walker." By the way, the new game we talked about is finally coming out next month. Even though our company originally made toys for babies, we have many employees who love games. This is because our CEO, Mike Williams, believes in hiring employees who love toys as a fundamental principle. Jack is a genuine game enthusiast, and he often spends his days off playing games non-stop for 24 hours. As a result, he's neither married nor has a girlfriend, but he seems quite happy with his life. Although I'm not as hardcore as Jack, I do enjoy video games as well. Recently, we've been talking non-stop about the upcoming new release of a game we both like. It's the first new release in 5 years. I'm really looking forward to it. Can I come over to your place on the release day, Mr. Walker? Let's play all night long. I'll bring my brother too. I gave a wry smile to the excited Jack and replied, "I'll think about it." While my wife is generally tolerant about gaming, I doubt she'd be pleased about having a subordinate stay over to play games all night. "Hey, stop chatting and get back to work," Manager Thompson shouted at us. Manager Thompson had joined us from the parent company just last week. The previous manager retired, and he took over. It's not uncommon for employees from the parent company to be seconded to us. The previous manager also came to us on secondment and stayed until retirement. Thompson will likely stay with us until he retires as well. Sorry about that. We had been doing the final checks for a pop-up event starting next week. We were discussing the details. However, we weren't slacking off at all, and we were trying to keep our voices down. You're always a bad influence on everyone around you. This is why dealing with a high school dropout is so troublesome. Manager Thompson muttered, clearly displeased with me. My lack of a college degree is well known in the company, but to Manager Thompson, the idea of a high school dropout working in a company is unacceptable. He constantly belittles me for it. I'm the one who derailed the conversation. Mr. Walker isn't at fault. And he's not stupid, even if he didn't graduate from college. You always defend David for some reason. As my junior, you should understand your own worth and choose your associates wisely, Manager Thompson lectured, sighing heavily. Jack always stands up for me whenever Manager Thompson belittles me, but he dislikes it immensely. Jack graduated from a prestigious private university, and Manager Thompson, who graduated from the same school. Manager Thompson had a staunch belief in academic elitism and thought his university was the best. Of course, Jack's university was indeed a prestigious private institution, but it was not as highly regarded as a national university. He has a staunch belief in the superiority of his alma mater and adores Jack excessively. Mr. Walker is far more capable than I am. Why can't you see that, Manager Thompson? You've been brainwashed. Poor thing, Manager Thompson said, shaking his head in disapproval. Realizing it was pointless to argue further, Jack sighed and fell silent. Manager Thompson seemed to take Jack's silence as compliance and nodded in satisfaction before returning to his desk. I really can't stand him. Well, he just got here. Give it some time, I said, trying to calm him down as we returned to work. Since then, Manager Thompson and I barely exchanged words. I was in charge of the pop-up event, so I didn't need to consult him much. Plus, he was still unfamiliar with the employee's duties, so everyone kept coming to me for confirmation. I knew Thompson wasn't happy about this, but he would have to learn the job gradually. One day, it happened. Manager Thompson, I'm so sorry. My subordinate, Alex Johnson, was in charge of the promotional campaign for a new product launching in 2 months, but he had mistaken the deadline by a week. The client was furious and had called, demanding that Alex and the department head come to apologize immediately. Although it was Alex's mistake, Manager Thompson should have caught it when he approved it. Of course, it happened to be approved on my day off, so I didn't get a chance to review it. If it had been a less urgent project, I could have checked it after my break, but this one was time-sensitive. Damn it, what were you thinking? This client is a major one. How could you mess this up? I'm sorry. They insisted we come and explain in person immediately. The client's anger was justified, as missing the deadline had caused them significant damage. They had always trusted us completely, so our oversight was inexcusable. Why do I have to go apologize? It's your mistake. You go alone. But they specifically asked for you to come along too. Alex was in a panic and on the verge of tears. He had already been yelled at by the client over the phone, and now, being shouted at by Manager Thompson, he didn't know what to do. Manager Thompson, we should go together and apologize. The client wants a detailed explanation, and we need to discuss the next steps. Why do I have to go? I had nothing to do with this project. Does he not realize that's the problem? He approved it, so he's definitely responsible. His lack of knowledge about the projects only highlights his negligence. You checked everyone else's work except this one. Why did you miss this? Did you ignore it on purpose? How irresponsible can you be? Enough is enough. Manager Thompson raged irrationally. Of course, I didn't know about the missed deadline. Alex, who had successfully handled many projects before, wasn't a newbie. I trusted he'd manage, so I didn't oversee every detail myself. You go. I don't want to be yelled at. Pretend you're the manager and apologize. What are you talking about? I sighed in exasperation at Manager Thompson, who was whining like a child. It was our mistake, so of course, we needed to apologize, and as the department head, Manager Thompson was partially responsible for Alex's error. Just go apologize. The client is waiting, I said firmly, forcing Manager Thompson and Alex into a taxi. We needed to start damage control immediately, and apologizing was the first step. I began to hastily plan our next moves. It was about 2 hours later when Manager Thompson and Alex returned to the office. Alex looked exhausted, while Manager Thompson was red-faced with anger. They must have been scolded quite a bit. I braced myself for the inevitable reprimand when Manager Thompson smirked and said, "I blamed everything on you." Manager Thompson smirked as he said that. I stared at him in disbelief, not understanding what he meant. "What do you mean?" I told them all the mistakes were yours. Alex was the point person, but I explained that you were the one who handled the procedures. The client was confused but angry at you for pushing the blame onto Alex. Manager Thompson laughed heartily, and it was clear he wasn't joking. I glanced at Alex, who looked at me teary-eyed. It seemed Manager Thompson was telling the truth. Why would you lie like that? The client was furious, so I figured if I blamed you, I wouldn't get yelled at. They saw me as the poor guy who came to apologize on behalf of his subordinate. They fell for it easily. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he come up with such a cruel idea? He didn't understand why we went to apologize in the first place. So, what did the client say? Well, they were really pissed. You'll probably get called in later. I'll just tell the CEO that your mistake caused a huge loss. We need to submit bonus evaluations this month, but no bonus for an incompetent dropout like you. At this point, nothing Manager Thompson said surprised me anymore. I started to think there was something wrong with the company that put him in charge of bonus evaluations. Wait, this isn't right. Mr. Walker had nothing to do with this mistake. Of course he did. If David had caught Alex's mistake, none of this would have happened. Unable to hold back, Jack snapped at Manager Thompson, but he didn't listen. Jack, you overestimate David. After this, he'll be demoted or transferred and won't be in this department anymore. Just start preparing for the handover. I sighed deeply at Manager Thompson, who refused to acknowledge his own faults. I realized it was impossible to continue working with him. Then, I resigned. My subordinates all looked at me in shock when I said this. Manager Thompson, however, just smiled and said, "Oh, please do. Mr. Walker, please wait." Jack, bewildered, spoke up in my defense, but I had reached my limit. If I stayed any longer, I might end up hitting Manager Thompson. "Thank you for everything," I said, giving a small bow to Manager Thompson before leaving the company. The next day, I found myself idly at home. My sudden resignation had surprised my wife and kids, but they weren't angry. "It must have been pretty bad for you to quit your job. I'm working too, so you don't need to rush into finding another job." My wife reassured me before heading off to work, leaving me with instructions to handle the cleaning, laundry, and shopping. I married my wife when I was 33. We haven't been married for 10 years yet, but it feels like we've been together forever. I spent the morning cleaning, doing laundry, and shopping. Before starting dinner preparations, I took a short break but couldn't stop worrying about work. Were the projects I'd overseen still on track? Were my subordinates facing any issues? Even though I decided to quit, it wasn't because I hated my job. I hadn't gone back to pick up my things from the office because I couldn't bring myself to face going back there. If I stepped foot in the office, I'd end up worrying about my subordinates and helping out with work. That would defeat the purpose of resigning. I sighed for what felt like the 100th time today. Just as I decided to start preparing dinner and stood up, my phone rang with a call from the office. I wondered if something had happened as I answered the call. "Hey, what the hell did you do?" I winced at the sound of Manager Thompson's yelling. His voice was the last thing I wanted to hear. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb." His voice was so loud it was distorted, making it hard to understand him. But I managed to grasp the situation. Apparently, when Manager Thompson arrived at work today, he had the following exchange with an employee. The stock price is plummeting. What? The office had the atmosphere of a funeral, and when they investigated, they discovered that news of my resignation had spread on social media. It even made the online news and was trending. Why is there such an uproar just because you quit? And why the stock crash? Did you do something behind the scenes? You dirty rat. I have no idea what you're talking about. I understood Manager Thompson's point, but I genuinely didn't know anything. I hadn't told anyone about my resignation except my family, and I certainly didn't post it on social media. Whatever you say, I don't know anything about it. If you're looking for the cause, calling me is a waste of time. Why the hell not? Then why the sudden crash? Everyone at the office is saying I'm the reason you left and that it caused the stock to drop. The CEO is going to chew me out soon. I understood Manager Thompson's frustration, but there was nothing I could do about it. I'm currently on paid leave and haven't officially resigned yet, but I've already decided that I won't work under Manager Thompson anymore. No matter what you say, I won't be coming back to the company. Stock prices may fall, but they can rise again. You'll just have to hang in there. I knew I was being dismissive, but I was fed up with talking to Manager Thompson. I abruptly ended the call and sighed. I understood that the company was in a difficult situation, but I wasn't going to do anything about it. Manager Thompson kept calling me repeatedly, but I ignored every call. The next day, he called several times again, but I continued to ignore him until he finally stopped. I was prepared to answer if my subordinates called me personally, but only Manager Thompson kept calling. A few days later, I went to the office to collect my belongings. I had considered asking them to throw everything away, but among my things were signed birthday cards from my colleagues. That's why I had to come and get them. Feeling a bit nervous about seeing everyone again, I walked into the office and was immediately spotted by Jack. Mr. Walker. Seeing Jack's genuinely happy expression, I couldn't help but smile. If what Manager Thompson said was true, the past few days must have been really tough for them. Hey, it's been a while. How are you? I came to pick up my things. Oh, I see. Jack was clearly disappointed. He probably thought I might be coming back. Your desk is just as you left it. Take whatever you need, and I'll dispose of the rest. His words were full of hope that I might return. Of course, I cared about my subordinates and liked the work. But working under Manager Thompson was impossible. Well, if it isn't Walker, ignoring all my calls. How dare you show your face here? Manager Thompson spotted me and instantly started yelling. The other employees looked disheartened, and I felt genuinely sorry for them. I just came to get my stuff. I'll leave right away. Wait, the stock price is still plummeting. Explain this to the CEO. As he shouted, Manager Thompson grabbed me by the collar. I couldn't care less about the stock price crash. Stop it. I'm just here to get my things. Why should I talk to the CEO? I have nothing to do with this company anymore. You better cut that attitude. Manager Thompson's pupils were fully dilated as he punched me in the face. He was quite heavy, and the punch carried significant force. I had never been hit before, and the shock and pain left me stunned. Mr. Walker, are you okay? This serves you right. Now go explain to the CEO. If you don't, I'm going to get fired. What are you doing? A loud, authoritative voice echoed through the office, interrupting the commotion. I turned to see the CEO glaring at us. Sir, I was just about to go to your office. Please wait a moment. Do you even realize what you've done? The CEO was livid, his face flushed with anger as he yelled at Manager Thompson. I returned from a business trip to find the stock price plummeting, David having quit, and you assaulting him. What is going on here? I didn't. It wasn't like that. It certainly was like that. He had punched me hard. David, are you all right? More importantly, why did you resign? If there's any issue, I'll address it immediately. He has no right to complain. This high school dropout decided to quit on his own. Manager Thompson mumbled defensively as the CEO turned to speak with me. The CEO looked thoroughly annoyed with him. "I'm asking David, it was you who failed to bring him to explain his resignation, wasn't it?" Well, Manager Thompson, now visibly flustered, had lost all his previous bravado. I sighed and explained everything to the CEO. How I'd been doing Manager Thompson's work, how he blamed his mistakes on me, how he said I wouldn't get a bonus, and more. I have a lot of respect for this company, but I can't work under someone like him. When I finished, the CEO gritted his teeth and glared at Manager Thompson. "You've done something incredibly stupid, haven't you?" Manager Thompson let out a small yelp at the CEO's fury. "But he's just a high school dropout. He doesn't belong in our company. We need more top-tier college graduates like me and Parker." Manager Thompson gestured to Jack as he spoke. Jack looked away in disgust. He clearly didn't want to be associated with Manager Thompson. "What are you talking about?" "What?" The CEO looked genuinely perplexed. "David, a high school dropout? Do you not know he's the one who helped grow this company to where it is today?" "Huh?" The CEO looked around at the employees, bewildered. He seemed to be asking if Manager Thompson was serious. Manager Thompson really doesn't seem to get it. It's ridiculous that he doesn't know Mr. Walker's name considering his role in this company. "What are you talking about? What's so special about this high school dropout?" Manager Thompson, clearly not understanding, stomped his feet in frustration. Like a child. "A few years ago, this company entered the board game industry. The person who developed our flagship board game was Mr. Walker. I was the one who proposed developing board games. I realized that with the changing times, our current products and sales methods wouldn't secure the future of the company. I owed a lot to this company, which had hired me despite my lack of a college degree. Unlike my seniors who thought we could just be absorbed by the parent company during tough times, I had a completely different perspective. I believed in the value of this company and wanted to preserve its name for the future. While everyone else had given up on this company, David was the only one who didn't. When he proposed making board games, I was surprised, but I wanted to support his efforts. We started creating products entirely different from the baby toys we used to make. I knew that without any recognition, our new toys wouldn't sell. So, I decided to build awareness myself. I began uploading videos daily to a streaming service, explaining the board games I developed. Initially, the views were low, but gradually, the subscriber count grew, and with it, the recognition of our board games increased. It helped significantly when a famous influencer featured our games. In the gaming community, Mr. Walker's channel is well known. What seems like simple board game tutorials turns into deep and engaging content, and Mr. Walker's unmatched skill makes it fascinating," Jack said, unable to hold back his laughter. Many intellectual influencers have tried to challenge Mr. Walker, but always end up losing. Watching Mr. Walker, a middle school graduate, defeat top university graduates is quite satisfying. Yeah, the channel has kind of turned into that. At first, the channel was meant to promote our board games, but now it's become a platform where challengers try to beat me. However, it's become very popular, which is a blessing. Thanks to David, our company became known as a board game company, and sales soared. The games were undoubtedly fun, and once people knew about them, they sold well. That's when our stock prices skyrocketed, the CEO said, nodding emphatically. Our board games, available in English, were also popular overseas. As a result, our stock price is exceptionally high for a Japanese company. We even have a world championship for our board games now. The winner gets to challenge David, but no one has beaten him yet. Since I developed the game, losing isn't an option for me. It was like my child. Since I developed the game from scratch, thinking about every possible way to win, I don't feel like I can lose. Many investors bought our stock because of Mr. Walker. So, it's no surprise that his resignation caused the stock price to plummet. The source of the information seems to be an employee from a company Manager Thompson was negotiating with. What? Manager Thompson's eyes filled with tears, and he forced a strained smile at Jack's revelation. The client is a big fan of yours, Mr. Walker. They were probably angry to hear bad things about you. One of their employees posted on social media, and the rumors spread instantly. It seems our own employees spread the fact that you were resigning. David, let me ask you again. Why are you leaving our company? The CEO knew the answer. I glanced at Manager Thompson. He was trembling. He knew what I was about to say. I don't want to work under Manager Thompson. If someone else takes his place, I won't resign. I see, understood. Hearing my words, Manager Thompson's face turned to one of despair. The CEO nodded in satisfaction. Well then, as of today, Manager Thompson is fired. He'll be responsible for compensating for the losses caused by the stock price crash. And for the things he said to David, we'll also demand damages. David, can you go to a psychiatrist tomorrow and get a diagnosis? I couldn't help but laugh at the CEO's serious tone. He wasn't holding back at all. David is crucial to our company. We can replace Thompson, but we can't replace you. I completely agree. Academic background means nothing in front of Mr. Walker. No matter how smart we are, we can't beat him in games. I sighed deeply. Judging everything by games isn't good, but the reverse is also true. Judging everything based on academic background is far too simplistic. All right, let's spread the news that David is back. Can you start working today? Yes, I can, I answered and sat at my desk. Everything was exactly as I had left it. Someone had even kept it clean. Employees start working busily, while Manager Thompson stands there in a daze. Manager Thompson lost everything in an instant, but no one felt sorry for him. After that, Manager Thompson was immediately fired. As the CEO said, he was ordered to pay a large amount of compensation. Though I didn't care much about the damages, the CEO insisted, saying, "You deserve it after all you've been through, covering for Thompson's work." So, I got a diagnosis and claimed the damages. I was grateful that others were angrier than I was about the situation. The CEO continued to investigate for more reasons to pursue Manager Thompson. The debt Manager Thompson incurred was astronomical, something he couldn't pay off in his lifetime. On top of that, his wife immediately filed for divorce. Apparently, their marriage had already grown cold, and they were living separately within the same house. Regardless, this incident was undoubtedly the final straw for their divorce. Manager Thompson lost everything in an instant and now lives alone in a shabby apartment. He works part-time jobs from morning till night just to get by, but he has fallen behind on alimony and compensation payments and has finally resorted to borrowing from loan sharks. His life is completely ruined, and it's unlikely he'll ever get back on track. Tonight, Jack is staying over at my place. A new game was released, and since Jack insisted, we decided to have an all-night gaming session at my house. I thought my wife, Emily, might be displeased, but she said, "It's been tough for you lately. You need a break." Jack is polite, so I don't mind. With Emily's blessing, Jack came over, cheerfully carrying bags full of alcohol and snacks. We could play online, you know. I'm a bit old-fashioned in that way. I like playing together while drinking, Jack said, his face lighting up like a boy as he operated the controller. I'm really glad you decided to come back, Mr. Walker. A lot of employees, including me, were ready to quit if you did. You joined the company because you said you were a big fan of mine, right? I remembered when Jack first joined the company. He used to comment on every one of my videos, so I knew who he was. I was surprised when this passionate fan joined my company. To me, you're like a god, Mr. Walker. Your videos saved me when I was going through tough times. It seemed Jack had some issues with his social life during his university days. He often told me how my videos had saved him. In fact, many of my viewers felt the same way. Being able to impact people's lives like that, I feel fortunate to have this job. It's all because you're amazing, Mr. Walker. As we exchanged these words, I found myself thinking that I wanted to continue this work for the rest of my life. There's nothing more wonderful than knowing that your actions can empower others.